I'm going to move forward, I'm going to hit you, I'm going to be right there in your face, and I'm going to drown you until you don't believe in yourself anymore. At the end of the day, they come to see me fight because they know it's going to be a show. Kill or be killed moment, you know. Yeah. The truth comes out in the cage. Absolutely. It's a very honest sport that we do, so you get to find out who you are in there. Some people, when they lose, they blame everybody else and every other thing. I try to think, like, you know, it's me in there. What did I do wrong? Motivation lasts for about 2 weeks before it's not there anymore. Then after that, it's just discipline. That's what it's about. I strongly believe that I'm the best in the world. It's about going out there and getting it done now.
This week on the show, we have Rory MacDonald, who's just signed with Bellator MMA, and he's going to be fighting here in London May 19th. He's going up against Paul Daley, a legend in the sport, especially in Britain. We're going to see what happens. Rory used to fight in the UFC, 13 fights. He grew up in the UFC, beat names like BJ Penn, Nate Diaz. He beat the current 170-pound champion Tyron Woodley. And Rory is pissed off. He doesn't like his last two performances in the cage against Robbie Lawler and Stephen Thompson, and now he wants to show you what he's really about. And we know Rory grew up training with GSP, who himself is now back in the UFC. We talked about so many things like fatherhood, hunting, and what it really takes to be a fighter, and what you're thinking when your nose is broken, you got an adrenaline dump, and you're going in round 5 against a killer like Robbie Lawler. I really enjoyed my time with the Canadian Psycho, AKA the Red King, Rory MacDonald. And around London Real, we've always got things kicking off. This week in the Academy, people are posting their videos on Create and Connect and their body and mind challenges. Tons of things are happening. I am taking our class through the Business Accelerator. People are taking their passions and then turning them into businesses, just like I did here with London Real. And if you want to know more, you can go inside the Academy at londonreal.tv and check things out. And of course, watch all of our episodes for free. But now I leave you with Rory MacDonald of Bellator Fighting. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Rory MacDonald, aka the Red King, who is the top-ranked Canadian mixed martial artist signed with Bellator MMA. You fought 13 times in the UFC with wins over Nate Diaz, BJ Penn, and the current 170-pound champion Tyron Woodley. On May 19th in London, you will take on the British fighter Paul Daley at Bellator 179. Rory, welcome to London Real.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to London, too.
Yeah.
Your first time here, right?
Yeah.
Now you're part of the Commonwealth, right? Coming from Canada.
That's right. Yeah.
But what's it like to be here?
I'm super excited, you know, and the fact that I'm main eventing a card in London, like, it's kind of surreal a little bit, you know. I wanted to fight here a year ago, but it didn't work out. But, you know, I never would have thought I could be in a position where I could go internationally somewhere, especially in a major city like London, and host an event. So it's like one of those epic moments in my career, you know.
Okay, so this is almost bigger than if you were headlining an event in, say, California or something like that.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, for sure.
Just because it's a major international city, right?
Yeah, overseas. I've never really done that. You know, I've pretty much strictly been in North America my whole career.
Right. What about the British fans? I mean, they're different a little bit, I think, than the Americans ones. Do you have a different vibe here, press conference?
I don't know. I mean, the press conference was pretty quiet. I didn't see any fans or anything. So I guess my first experience will be May 19th.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty hardcore over here.
Yeah.
You know?
I would imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why the UFC moved over here, and obviously Bellator is doing a bunch of events here. So yeah, they're serious about their MMA, and obviously Ireland now as well with kind of the McGregor phenomenon. So Paul Daly has kind of been there and done that. And like a couple of years ago in Britain, you know, besides maybe Bisping, he was probably one of the guys really known at the top of his game.
Yeah.
Some crazy knockouts, a lot of striking power and stuff. How does it feel going up against him? How was it like to meet him? All that stuff.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the fight. I mean, you know, I've been watching Paul since probably before I even started fighting. Oh, wow. So it's, yeah, you know, I've seen him since forever, it seems like. So the fact that I'm actually getting to step in there with him, and you know, just everything that's been going on lately, I think it's just a perfect matchup for me at the moment. You know, it's gonna a win over him puts me in the title spot, and you know, it's just a good first fight for me in Bellator for sure.
He said he almost was a bit starstruck with you.
Yeah.
What's that like when, you know, two fighters that then have to fight, who of course will fight, but when you meet him for the first time, is that kind of strange?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't expect him to say something like that. I don't know. I didn't really get starstruck by him. I definitely know who he was and watched his fights for many years. But you know, it's casual. I mean, I was hoping he would have some meaner things to say about me, get some interest going. But
that could change.
Yeah, hopefully. That
could change. Him and MVP were like kind of buddies a year ago, and now they're going after each other. So we got 3 months left. So, what do you expect in that fight? I mean, he's likes to stand up. You don't mind either. You've had entire fights standing up, even though you know you've got strong ground and everything. What are you expecting?
You know what, it's going to be a hardcore fight. I think, you know, Paul's an athletic guy, and he knows how to keep the fight on his feet. You know, he likes to be there. So I want to mix it up with him and make him worried about me taking him down. And I think that's going to open up a lot of doors for me.
Nice. You said on the Joe Rogan Experience, a famous quote, you said, "I don't have a plan." And that was just kind of your way of talking about life, as in like, you know, do this, you kind of trained how your body felt, that kind of thing. I was wondering if you could explain kind of what you meant by that.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much just wing it. You know, I take all the experiences I have over the years and, you know, all the knowledge I've gained over the years, and I just kind of, I go with the flow, I guess. And I guess that you're able to do that when you feel confident in all aspects of the mixed martial arts game. Like I pretty much, I work everything, you know, from wrestling, stand-up to submission grappling. So I feel comfortable everywhere. So when the fight's on, it's the same thing. I'll take it wherever it may go, and I'm happy to take it there against anyone.
It's hard for people to believe that, you know, you can be at the top of your game like that and then not have every detail like meticulously planned, because I'd say a lot of fighters do, right?
I mean, I've done that in the past. I mean, I think it showed in my last fight. I was almost overthinking things. You know, I was out there trying to be a point fighter fighting Stephen Thompson, who's the karate guy. I'm trying to do karate out there with him. So I think just being myself and just let things flow naturally and you know, express myself in the cage, who I truly am, that's where I'm going to have my success. Right,
so be yourself. And you said you want to get back to just being Rory out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not overthinking things, just letting it happen.
Right. You're a big believer in training and skills. Yeah. That beats anything, right? Beats heart, beats size, beats anything?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I guess it's just my experience, you know. I I came into martial arts not knowing how to fight at all, from zero to like fighting for the UFC title. So I had to, you know, I put all my energy into learning techniques and being able to apply it in combat situations. So for me, learning technique is 100% the most important thing.
And you started as kind of a scrawny kid, and you
Yeah.
started with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what that
Oh,
was
actually, I started with everything. It was mixed martial arts gym.
Of course.
My first day was, I think it was like jiu-jitsu and then a Muay Thai class afterwards. But yeah, no, I loved it. I fell in love with it right away.
And at the time, you were one of the few UFC fighters that came in who trained in MMA from the beginning, and you didn't have the wrestling background, the jiu-jitsu background.
Yeah, that was kind of the angle UFC had pitched me on, you know. I'd kind of come in right around when people were starting to talk about that, you know, where the young guys were going to be coming in with just a mixed martial arts background rather than a traditional background in one of the disciplines, and maybe picked up the odd bit here and there. So, yeah, I guess I'm one of those original guys that, you know, the new school guys.
Okay, but you have a bit of an old school attitude.
Yeah.
How is that?
Yeah, I mean, I started fighting pro when I was 16 years old, so I got into this when the sport wasn't popular and didn't look like it was really going anywhere. I remember people telling me, like, why are you doing this? Like, you're not gonna make any money, you're not gonna do anything. But at the time, I had hope MMA would get to where it is now. I was confident it would, but even then, it wasn't about that for me. It was a passion of mine. And when you're passionate about something, you love it, you just want to do it because it makes you happy.
Yeah, you said once you don't want to be a billionaire, or that money's not the most important thing.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't been in my career. Now I have a daughter, so it's becoming more of an issue. I'm definitely focused on building my wealth now. It's more for her sake. I don't need much.
Okay, but the fighting wasn't about the money. It was about a place to prove your skill.
Yeah, for the longest time. Now it's becoming, you know, I gotta make some money at this. There's money to be made. People are making money, so, you know, I don't want people making all the money off my back and hard work. You know, I need my fair share too.
Were you also attracted to the fact that it's almost a performance out there as well? Like, you go, there's the crowd, there's the anticipation, they watch what you can do. Was that always something that interested you?
Not so much the personality of it. Like, I think people kind of, you know, I'm pretty like mellow and like monotone. You know, they got me as like the serial killer kind of.
Yeah, you had that name for a while, right?
Yeah, so it's never been an issue for me. Like, it's never been a focus to build a character or anything like that. I'm just trying to be myself, focus on fighting and just smashing guys. That's just what I like to do, and that's my focus.
I think at the press conference you were like, I'll pretty much fight anybody here.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, you're a bit of an old school guy as far as you'll take your skills on even against Bobby Lashley, the heavyweight.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I haven't really had a chance to do that in my career, but I'm excited. I'm in a position with great people in Bellator that are going to give me these opportunities. You know, they have a similar outlook with me. Like, they're willing to put me against, you know, big name guys that may not be in my weight class. Whereas, you know, when I was with UFC, if I would have asked for that, they would have laughed at me.
Right.
So, you know, I'm in a good position with them.
What makes you feel like you want to take on, you know, a light heavyweight or a heavyweight?
It's fun.
Okay. You want to test abilities, don't you?
Yeah. I don't know. The old school UFCs were very interesting to me. You know, just all walks of life. You know, Royce Gracie being a small guy fighting heavyweights and no time limits. I always like that raw outlook on martial arts.
Yeah, you don't like a lot of the new rules, right? 5-minute time limits, no knees to the grounded opponent.
Yeah, the whole scoring system, everything. Everything's kind of it screws it up a little bit. Takes some of the pureness of fighting away, I guess.
If it was up to you, what would it look like?
One round, maybe you know, like 110 or 2 10-minute rounds, or 1 20-minute round or something like that. Or at least scoring the fight on as a whole rather than per round basis, Because sometimes I'm watching fights and I'm thinking that guy won a fight, like this guy won the fight, but on my scorecards, this guy won.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird like that. And a couple of rules I would change too, like the knees on the ground to the head, the kicks to the head on the ground.
So you would allow that?
A lot of the elbows that are not headbutts are like, they have to be in it. Like there was some like crazy fights by Mark Coleman back in the day, like he dominated. So the fact that headbutts aren't allowed is like, that's a really crappy thing.
Have you ever trained headbutts with like some headgear on?
No.
Grappling situation?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I don't know how well that would go over. But
okay. So realistically, that's not going to happen anytime soon.
It's never going to happen.
Right, because we have to sell this sport to the media. Really.
Yeah, it's become like a mainstream sport, so it's got to be somewhat clean cut as brutal as it is, you know.
Yeah. So you're a purist. You kind of want to go back to that gladiator.
I like the really brutal stuff. Yeah.
So the old school Pride days, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wanderlei Silva, soccer kicks to the head.
Yeah, no, those were good.
And you're up for fighting Wanderlei Silva as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
That could be a good one. Could you walk us through the last year? Because you've had a pretty interesting year, from Wonderboy Thompson to like now headlining a card in London. And I was just wondering if you could tell us, what have been the ups, downs, and just thought process that brought you here.
Yeah, I mean, even before the Thompson had got set, I knew I was going to test free agency. Okay. So I knew I would be talking with Bellator. I was interested to see where that would go.
Why was that?
Financial. Okay. After the title fight with Robbie, just, getting all the way there, not winning the fight, and just still like, seeing my pay and what the offer was after that, it just kind of made me think like, man, I'm not at this rate. I'm just going to be broke at the end of my career.
Right. So
people are making a lot of money off my fights.
Right.
It's just doesn't add up. So.
Yeah. And that Robbie Lawler fight was like called Fight of the Year by a lot of people. You're fighting for the title, like you said, and so it was a loss, but it was like an incredible fight. But you're saying after that, the way they showed you how much you were valued, you were like, I'm going to look around.
Yeah, especially with what I was offered originally. It was kind of just like, really? Okay, that's what I'm worth.
Okay.
And so it kind of lit a fire under my ass, I guess, to get serious about this.
Okay. And when you look back on that Lawler fight, it's like 14 months ago. Do you have different thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I've come a long way since then. I wish I would have fought a little differently. But I was in the heat of the moment, and I was in there going for the kill,
Yeah, and you'd broken your nose in the first round, right?
Second,
okay. Mm-hmm. And you were probably breathing in lots of blood and swallowing blood too.
Yeah, that was pretty much all I was breathing. Every breath I would take is just like blood.
So it killed your cardio. Hard to get oxygen.
Yeah, no breathing through the nose. It was suffocating for sure. But I was on such a high adrenaline that I was able to push through a lot, especially when I had him hurt in the third and fourth. But after that, I just like crashed big time.
Oh, in the fifth round, it was a crash.
Fourth, usually I think it was like midway through the fourth, I was just like hitting a wall. Okay. And I was just hanging on from that point on.
Is that adrenaline is over then, or is it just lack of oxygen, you think?
Yeah, just fatigue. The adrenaline going down once you start fatiguing, and feeling all those shots on you, and then that slow disbelief in yourself once you're starting to feel like you're getting your ass kicked. Yeah. Okay,
right.
Yeah.
For people,
the anxiety kicks in and starts turning the wheels.
Okay. For people that have never and probably will never be in a situation where, it's between the third and fourth round and you're on the stool and you're looking across at Robbie Lawler and Firas is saying things to your ear, like, can you describe what is that like?
Oh, I don't hear anything at that point. Those hard fights, that I have, it's just like, I'm like, my eyes are like, zzz, like, there's nothing going on there. I'm just like trying to breathe at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you thinking much?
No. Okay. Just like, I'm in like kill or be killed moment, Yeah.
Do you remember the fight afterwards?
Oh yeah, no,
Okay.
For sure. I didn't even really get rocked in that fight as far as punches.
Okay.
It was just so much damage to my nose and the breathing and, you know, facial damage.
Okay. I saw a picture of you and Robbie in the hospital like
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Did you talk to him afterwards? And
No, he just say, you know, how you feeling and good fight and this and that. Robbie's not a big talker either,
yeah.
so
Probably less so than you.
I would say so, yeah.
That must be wild to fight someone like Robbie, who's his career's transformed from being super young in the UFC. I guess a bit like you, right? First fight in his teens, probably there.
Okay.
And then it really just like matured so much, you know?
Yeah, he definitely had a roller coaster career for sure.
Yeah. So that fight happens, the pay offer, you're like, I'm going to start looking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And not many people had done free agency at that point, right? From UFC.
Yeah, a few. I think it was
Anderson,
Benson,
yeah.
Matt, and a few other guys. Yeah, Phil Davis.
Okay.
Yeah.
After that Robbie fight, the nose healing, all that stuff, did that take time?
Yeah, I mean, I think I fought Robbie in July, and then I fought again in June against Thompson. The mistake with that was I took that much time off, but during it I was sparring and breaking my nose in the gym. It was stupid. Like, if I was gonna take that much time off, I might as well just like took the time to heal, but I couldn't hold myself back. So did the Thompson fight, and then I was like, okay, take this time serious to like actually heal.
Okay, and it rebroke in the Thompson fight?
Yeah.
Okay.
But actually straightened it.
Straighten it out?
A lot more anyway.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Okay, so then you're like, I'm gonna let this thing heal.
Yeah.
Okay, and now it's pretty good, and you've got a few months left of the fight, so.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling real confident. You know, I've been testing it the last month, and everything feels good. You know,
Okay.
I don't think it's gonna get much stronger than what it is.
Leaving the UFC, was that a difficult decision? Was it hard? Did it feel good? What was that all about?
I was a bit nervous, but I was just so motivated. Like I was saying, that after that fire under my ass, like I need to get what I deserve, you know. And just the fact that I see Bellator doing big things in the future, and they got good people. They know what they're doing. So I'm very confident where Bellator is going, and you know they have a lot of belief in me. And like I was saying, they're giving me the right opportunities, so it's a good fit.
I had King Mo Lawal in here about a week ago, and he was trying to explain to me the difference between Scott Coker and Dana White. And this is the analogy he gave me. He said, do you remember back in the 90s, there was like an East Coast, West Coast rap going on. And in the West Coast, you had Death Row and Suge Knight with Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. And you know, you'd see the videos, but you would see Dr. Dre and Snoop in the front of the video, and Suge Knight might be in the back. But then he said on the East Coast, you had Puff Daddy and Notorious B.I.G. And he said there, P. Diddy was always in front of everybody, in front of the camera. Yeah. And so he says that Dana White is the P. Diddy of MMA, as in he's more of the star than the fighters.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Is that true?
Absolutely. For example, like you go to any like UFC event, a fighter will walk through, a few people will come by, hey, you can have a picture and sign this. Dana walks through with his security, literally everyone gets out from their seats, like it's just like a whole crowd. So he's made himself into a star just by talking. It's bizarre.
Huh, I had no idea it was that magnitude.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's definitely very popular.
Do they need to change their game when it comes to how they treat their fighters?
Yeah, definitely needs to be more respect there. I think back in the days, from what I heard from guys, it was a different thing, you know, like Dana would come in super respectful and, you know, shake your hand, thank you for fighting, and give your money or whatever, and, you know, it was just a different attitude from what I heard from the old school guys. And, you know, once it started getting popular, I think the egos got pretty big, and the importance of respecting fighters, you know, our value just started going in the dumps a little bit, because we were just another body, you know, another guy to fill the spot.
How little can we pay them to just get the fights? I think that's more the attitude.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's business, you know. Everyone's got to, you know, negotiate their contracts. You know, fortunately for them, they had a monopoly, so they were in a position to, you know, have some pretty you know, stingy offers, and guys had to take it. But, you know, they also brought the sport up to where it is, so it's kind of a catch-22 there.
Yeah, and when they were sold, what were your thoughts on that?
I thought it was a great time to sell for them. I think they had a great move. As far as the guys that bought them, I think they're in a tough position. We'll see how they do. I mean, I don't know how they're going to make it work, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of them have ever been in the fight business before. I don't know the owners too well, their background, but I think they're like Hollywood guys, you know?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I don't know, like, their angle they're taking. It doesn't look good so far, though, the way, the approach they're going. You know, the fact that they let me go, and, you know, a lot of other guys are dropping off. It just doesn't seem like, I don't know if they get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in Bellator now, different vibe coming in. Scott Coker, all the guys always say he's kind of like the martial artist, you know, and he kind of treats everybody like that. And he's always the kind of the quiet guy at the fights, right? Behind the scees guy.
Yeah, yeah.
What's that been like?
It's super cool. I mean, it's hard to talk to him because he's quiet, you know, and he's busy too. But no, he's always super respectful and happy, and just like, you know, he's mellow, you know, he seems like he's just like another guy, but, you know, it's been a pleasure to work with him.
If he had made you a call and said, come fight Fedor in California on Saturday last week, would you have done it?
Probably not. But I mean, after this fight, yeah, I would have.
Okay.
I had to take this next month off, do a training camp, and then once we kick that off, then we could I'll start taking whatever comes, you know.
Okay, fair enough. You didn't want to leave UFC with a loss on your record, or with 2 losses, and that's something that, you know, you felt bad about, and you want to show the world that's not you. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it's more my last fight. You know, losses come in this sport. Like, it's just a part of it. You know, you can't expect to go undefeated in this career. It's just, especially if you're in for the long haul like I am. But it's more my performance in my last fight. You know, it wasn't me. So the fact that I've had to take so much time off and think about such a shitty performance, it just burns my ass a little bit, you know.
You're hard on yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you the worst critic?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. I'm trying to be pretty honest with myself about it. Sometimes, you know, it's hard to stay focused on just doing you. You know, there's so much information out there that you can get carried away and you end up going down the wrong road. But you know, it brought that loss brought me back on track where I need to be, I think.
You had a policy that you didn't watch video on fighters, and you just really thought about yourself and didn't study fighters. Is that something you still do, or do you still look at what they do?
I've never said I wouldn't. I don't. It's not like I don't believe in watching it. Like I'll throw on a fight of Paul's here and there, but I won't sit there for hours and days like looking at footage, and I'll just watch a fight and be like, oh, okay, you know. But when it comes down to it, like, I do what I do and he does what he does, and I've been around, you know. When I get into a fight, I gotta see what you're doing in front of me, you know what I mean? I don't want to have something predetermined in my mind, and that's what I did wrong against Steven too, you know, just over analyzing his strengths and wanting to adjust to that, and I think that's why the fight went the way it did.
Is fighting like 90% mental?
I guess. I mean, it's pretty physical too.
Yeah, okay. I just had fighters say that before, like, you know, the mental game is everything. I mean, I guess it's not everything, but, you know, I guess the mindset is key.
Yeah, absolutely. They go together, you know, perfectly. Like, you can't have one without the other. If you're gonna make a long, successful career of this, you got to be mentally strong.
What's it like that week before a fight? Like, are you doing certain things? Are you shutting down certain communication lines so you can be on your own, or do you like to have, like, now you have a family? Do you like to have them around you, or not too close, or what's the preparation like?
In the past, I'm focusing on just being in the now. You know, like, I have something to do. I'm cutting weight, and I'm focused on that. So that's pretty much what fight week is about. You know, just getting my weight down, doing the PR that I have to do, and just getting the rest at night, and, chilling out. So fight week is just like I'm pretty much like in my own bubble, doing my thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And fight night, is that waiting a hard thing, waiting for the fight?
Not really. I mean, it has been in the past, obviously, but with the more experience now, it's not an issue.
Okay.
When it's time, it's time.
Donald
I've learned how to be patient, and just kind of like.
Okay.
I'm pretty chill. I don't get too nervous before.
I think Donald Cerrone said that even now, right when he's walking into the cage, he's saying to himself, "What the fuck am I doing?" Yeah. That kind of a weird nerves thing that happened. Does that happen to you?
I was on the same card as in my last fight, and I seen him in the morning or afternoon in the lobby, and he came up to me. He's like, "You nervous, man? Like he was just like. He was kind of like he had some anxiety going on. I was like, not really. Like, this is what I do. And for sure, I thought he would kind of be like that too because he fights so often, but everybody handles that situation different. Yeah.
So you're mentally calm going in there?
Pretty much. Like, obviously, I do have nerves, it's a combat situation, but I don't get, like, freaked out about it. I know what it's about, being in a fight, so I'm not too worried,
Okay.
I know the worst outcome that could happen. It doesn't stress me out to the point where I need to start getting anxious about it.
Okay. Which is quite a contrast to your mentor, George St. Pierre, who used to just openly say he would get scared the week before a fight.
Yeah, I think he's like a lot like Cowboy, just a lot of anxiety and nerves,
Okay. And for him, it raised his game, right?
Yeah. Well, when you're in the moment too, I think it just comes down to fight or flight. And when you're a fighter, it's always going to be fight, and that's George,
Right.
Yeah.
What was it like as a young man to move you're from a very small town in Canada, right? Originally.
Yeah, I was born in a very small town. Yeah.
Okay. To then go ahead and move to Montreal, to go to TriStar, to work with George St. Pierre and Faras and all those people. What was it like? Do you remember the first time you met GSP, and how old were you?
Yeah, a lot of learning experiences for sure. Going to a big city from like where I came, for sure, it's definitely changed me over the years. Just being a city guy now, for sure. And the first time I met George, it was just in the gym and stuff. He was very welcomed me with open arms, and after we trained for the first time, he'd even brought me out to Montreal to work because he thought I had a lot of potential, and he helped me out a lot.
So he was a big fan from the beginning?
Yeah, well, I don't know about fan, but he was a big supporter, that's for sure, and he helped me a ton.
How old were you?
He didn't have to because he was the UFC champ, and I was like, what was I, 18 or something? I don't even know I was signed to the UFC at that point. But, yeah, it was bizarre.
And you signed the UFC at 18?
19, yeah, that would have been 19.
What's that like growing up in the UFC?
Or 20 maybe, I'm not even sure, I can't remember.
Is that strange growing up, or is it just so normal for you right now?
It was always my goal when I was 14, when I started going in. Like I kind of knew that this was where I was going. And my goal was to be in there pretty young. I was hoping to be in there before I was, in my 20s.
Okay. People always ask me, like, how do I find a mentor? People are always asking me that because we have a lot of people on this show that people kind of look up to. And I was just wondering, like, to have a mentor like GSP, changed your life, really.
Yeah. Before that, though, I had a good role model in my coach, David Lee, back home,
Okay.
He, before that, I wasn't doing anything good in my life, I was a little shithead. But when
How bad?
Not that bad, but I was that,
If you hadn't have taken that first martial arts class, what would Rory MacDonald be doing today?
I don't know. I was the shit. I was just a little shit. But I don't know, probably nothing good.
Okay.
But yeah, starting martial arts and finding that MMA school, Toshido, I had a lot of grown men, doing the sport and looking up to them, and my coach Dave was always very helpful with me, as a young guy. So he was probably biggest mentor for me in the early going,
Okay.
And then when I had, tried to go over to TriStar, obviously there was tons of guys there. George, Dennis Kang, David Loazo. There was a ton of guys you know, that would be considered old school guys now, but, you know, back then, like, it was like those dudes were at the top.
What did you learn from GSP? Like, if you had to think of like the 3 big things you learned from him, just watching him and being around him for those years, what would they be?
Hard work. Yeah, he's definitely the hardest worker I know. Very disciplined guy, and yeah, that's definitely what I took out from George. You know, he's always working. This guy, like, no matter what.
Just every hour, if it's spare, to be thinking about something.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's working every hour, but he's training smart, but he's putting in the work, the hard work all the time.
And you watched him, like, be the champion in the division for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
What's that like, to be the champion all the time and to have everybody gunning for you?
Yeah, I watched. Yeah, I got to see a lot of that. You know, for a few years. You know, watching. You know, George, like, having to deal with even me. You know, like, when anyone who would spar him, it was like their chance to shine against the champ. You know, so it was a. You know, that's just the position you're in when you're at in that spot.
And every time you win the bout, I remember George saying that right when the belt gets wrapped around his waist, something he's been self-admittedly obsessing about for 12 weeks or 16 weeks or however long, then sometimes they'll even bring your contender into the cage at that point. And George would be like, and now I start thinking about the next fight, like literally 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
Is that just madness to try to be the champion and try to do that? Or is that what it's all about?
Well, to be a champion like he was, like a guy that was a staple champion for, I don't know, he had to be one of the longest running champions, you know.
It's like 6 years or something crazy.
Yeah, it was insane. So to be able to do that that's legendary, you know. To be able to even defend the belt like 3 times is crazy, just because of how competitive this sport is. And just the toss-up of fighting, you know. It's MMA fighting, you know. One bad night, one bad move, even on a good night, could end your title reign.
Were you surprised to see him retire?
No, he'd talked about it for a while. It took a while, actually, you know, from when he was first talking about it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think because he would take everything so seriously and meticulously, and that anxiety before fights, do you think at some point, if you do that for 5 years in a row, at some point you're going to need to take a break mentally?
Yeah, I mean, he puts a lot of pressure on himself when it comes to a fight, when a fight gets announced. And when you're a champion, everything's like, there's a magnifying glass on you by like 100. You know what I mean? Rather than just fighting on the undercard, it's the pressure's different, the situation's different. So fighting title fights for 10 years, it takes its toll. And for him too, like, you know, he's obsessive. He's got the OCD thing going on. So absolutely, he deserved a break.
Yeah, he's coming back.
Yeah.
Do you see him at TriStar every now and then? Does he still train?
All the time.
All the time. Okay.
Yeah. And well, he travels a ton, so he's just he's always working at wherever he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's coming back. We don't know who he's fighting yet, correct?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think the rumor is Bisping or McGregor, but I mean, I don't know.
So we could go up or down and wait for that.
I'd like to see Bisping and him get in there. I think, you know, that I don't think McGregor's fighting in UFC anytime soon.
Is he taking a break?
It looks like he's going for boxing. That's what's going on?
That's what they're talking about.
Okay.
I still can't tell. So
okay.
I do want to ask you about him. But with GSP, how do you feel about him coming back?
Good. I mean, I remember when we were talking about it before he was retired, I told him, just look at Mayweather. You know, you're in a similar spot where you've been at the top for so long. People know who you are. You're a stable guy. You could take the time off you need and come back and make more money than you ever did in your career, you know, just because of the excitement behind it. And I think that's what ended up happening, you know. So I think it's a good thing. It's a positive thing. He got to chill, relax, and, you know, take some time for himself.
He took 3 years? A little more.
Probably 3, yeah.
I think he was so set up financially that he still made great money on the sponsors and all that in the meantime.
Absolutely,
so,
yeah.
I mean, he made a great business around GSP, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the first, probably biggest, earliest businesses of a single MMA fighter was GSP.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned McGregor. You did a media tour with him on UFC 189.
Yeah.
So were you behind the scenes when he was going around the world taunting Aldo?
Not all of it. I did the very end of it in North America.
Okay.
He went to South America, all through California, and then New York, and then Europe. So I pretty much just did like New York and Toronto with him.
Okay.
Yeah, it was cool.
What did you think of that? Obviously, he hadn't won the belt then. He was still, people weren't quite sure what he was going to do, but he was looking pretty good.
Yeah.
What did you think of all that madness? Obviously, very different than your style.
Yeah.
What did you make of it?
Awesome. He was a cool cat, you know. He's one of those guys that just stands out, and he's made a huge name for himself. And not only that, he's performed, you know. So credit to the guys. I think people could take a chapter out of his book, that's for sure.
Maybe we see you wearing some mink coats at some of the...
No, that's not me. He does it well, though. I think if I did it, people would be like, huh? It wouldn't go over so well.
But you're in a similar position now because you're headlining cards now. So unlike in the UFC, now you're kind of the man behind the brand.
Yeah, but I think everybody's got their own personality and image to go with, and I'm just going to keep doing me, you know? I think people resonate with me at my fights. At the end of the day, they come to see me fight because they know it's going to be a show. You know, it's not. I'm not gonna be pussyfooting around in there anymore. You know, it's going to be a hardcore fight.
And from here on out, are you going in with a new aggression, a new will?
Yeah. What you've seen in my past fights, you know, guys, you know, my Robbie Lawler fights, fight Damian Maia, Carlos Condit, you know, BJ Penn, like, you know, the ones you've really seen my personality come through. You know, I'm really focused on just really expressing myself in you know, the rest of my career. That's my biggest focus. Is just when I step into the cage, let everything happen. You know, that I feel inside me. You know, like don't have second thoughts on what I need to do. Just let me be me.
Is that a martial artist at his very best when he is, you know, literally in the now, the present, not thinking forward, not thinking back?
Yeah, you can't handcuff yourself with with so many different ideas in your head. I think when I like to learn new things. I'm obsessive about like martial arts and learning because I just love martial arts. So when there's so much information coming out, it's like almost overload, and that's what it was at that point. And, you know, it kind of made me a realization like I have a strong base here and a lot of knowledge, and let's ride that wave. You know.
Right. Trust what you have. And
yeah,
use what you
not
have.
that I don't need to, I'm shutting off information because that would be stupid too, but there's definitely a certain direction I'm going and focusing on that.
And when it comes to press conferences, I think the public can see through anything that's not you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they know better than almost anyone else, and they'll either give it the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah.
And McGregor's interesting because you spent a little time with him on the media tour, but I remember the Aldo thing was just crazy. He's snatching belts out in front of him and all that stuff, right? Yeah. And then when it came to like the week before the press conference, 4 or 5 days before the fight, he was really quiet. And he was next to Dana, and the whole press, you know, they were like, come on, McGregor, give us some of that stuff. And he was just like, I think he said something that always resonated with me. He says, I'm congruent with who I am in the moment, you know? And if I'm angry or braggadocio, great. But if I'm not, then I'm not going to be.
Yeah. And he was probably cutting weight, like serious weight at that point too. He's half dead.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe at that point, he had done all the psychological stuff and there was no point to just spin it more. Yeah. But then again, with Nate Diaz, you know, bottles are getting thrown and things like that.
Yeah, no, it's funny to see, like, just the whole dynamic change with guys promoting their fights and getting opportunities. Everybody feels like to get anywhere in the UFC, they need to be McGregor now. Everybody's trying to be him. It's pretty crazy.
Is it working?
No, because it's not them. Like I was saying, you gotta have your own thing, and I think that's something the UFC kind of lost touch in, and the Bellator's, you know, they know what they're doing there. They see a personality in someone, and they're gonna let the people see that side of them, you know.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation for free by clicking on the link below to visit our website, and I'll see you on the inside.
Sport doesn't lie to you when you're in there. Like the feelings you have when you're in a real fight, and when you sit back afterwards and you think about it, those feelings that you had in there, and you can genuinely feel if you enjoyed that experience and you want to do it again, or that was a terrible experience and I never wanted to be in that situation again.